Just one moment there. Okay. Again, welcome everyone. If you haven't already, feel free to share your name, where you're signing in from, and your major or degree in the chat box, as well as your LinkedIn URL. And thank you for joining us for our session tonight to hear about how to network as a liberal arts major, as well as more about Penguin Random House from this employer partner. We're so excited to have them here tonight. You'll notice that cameras and mics have been disabled for the session, so we can focus our attention on our presentation. To start introductions, my name is Dana McGrath. I'm an employer relations partner with the SNHU Career Services team. I am joined this evening by my colleague and SNHU internship administrator, Amrique Hector. Amrique's going to be engaging with you all in the chat, and we'll gather any questions that you might have throughout this session. So feel free to enter any of those questions in the chat as they come to mind so you don't forget. We should have some time to get to as many of those questions as we can at some point during or after the presentation. I did promise we'd wrap this up around 6:45 p.m. today, so we'll make sure we're timely there. And we do want to make sure that you know your experience here at SNHU is important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design or delivery that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the following contacts. Online students can reach the Online Accessibility Center at oac@snhu.edu or call 866-305-9430. Campus students that may be in attendance can reach the Campus Accessibility Center at cac@snhu.edu or call 603-644-3118. And finally, any SNHU staff and faculty can reach the Human Resource Office at hr@snhu.edu. Please keep in mind, SNHU Career Services is a lifetime benefit that's included in your SNHU journey and beyond as an alumni. Our career team supports you with resume reviews, mock interview practice, job and internship search techniques, and so much more. So feel free to reach cocecareer@snhu.edu or call 888-672-1458 to schedule time with an SNHU career advisor. You can also explore all the variety of networking and platforms for networking socially with other SNHU students on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, as well as our internal SNHU Connect. Be sure, of course, to join and log into Handshake, which is the career platform that we use. And thank you, everyone. Those are the housekeeping notes from me. And again, I want to be sure that we respect Aisha's time and aim for 6:45 tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and, without further ado, introduce Aisha Richardson, campus recruiter from Penguin Random House. So virtual round of applause. Welcome, Aisha. Thank you so much for being here this evening. We're really looking forward to having you share your knowledge and your insights with SNHU students and alumni. So I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting so that Aisha can go ahead and open up her presentation.
Thanks, Dana. I will share my screen. I'm just going to share the whole window because I was going back and forth about whether or not to share just the presentation. But regardless, it's really because I'm going to jump in and go over like reading a job description with all of you and do things like that. So yeah. Hi, everyone. It's good to have you here. I always open up like presentations with a little bit of some of the books that Penguin Random House puts out. So Penguin Random House is the largest global publisher. We publish over 70,000 books in print, digital, and ebook formats each year. So it's a huge company. We publish a lot of books. And, you know, if anyone is interested in talking more about publishing, I'm going to be dropping, you know, how to network and how to cater your resume, cover letter, interview for publishing here and there throughout. But I know as a liberal arts major, hence I was also a liberal arts major in college. So I know for me, I definitely wanted something that was more like, all right, well, this isn't for me, so what's for me, you know? So I definitely try to make sure that my presentations kind of cover that, and I'll kind of talk about both. But I also work for a publishing company, and I have to insert how to also work and cater to publishing. But again, feel free to utilize the chat to ask as many questions as possible. I have my phone next to me. I can't see it when I'm presenting, but I'll peek down at the phone occasionally. So yeah, we can get started. So initially, I like to step right into talking about reading a job description, right? When you are applying for jobs, you're thinking like, all right, what do I want to do? This is what I graduated with. And sometimes things that caught me off guard a lot of times was the names of jobs. Like companies will call jobs all types of things. So I always suggest trying to be as vague as possible when you're applying to jobs. And then sometimes if you're not getting like hits or like any applications or like job descriptions that like are matching what you're looking for, then you want to try to get as specific as possible. So I went from like school counselor or like counseling or like career support, and then all the way down to like I don't even know what was the specific one, like student advocate or like student career advocate or something like that, where I tried to really narrow down like what do I search for? Like how do I make do a job search correctly, right? But once you get past the job search and you are finding roles that like are speaking to you, it's important to know how to read the job description, right? So I'm just going to open right up into one of our job descriptions. Can everyone see this? Just let me know. I'm peeking at the
Yes.
chat. Awesome,
Yep.
cool.
Perfect.
So this is a job description for a production assistant at Knopf Doubleday Publishing Group. A role we have open right now on penguinrandomhouse.com. It's careers.prh.com. You definitely can check this out if you're interested. But I want to go through how to read this job description. So when you see the job description, obviously title of the job, right? This is the role you would be applying for. This tells you where. This at Penguin Random House specifically, Knopf Doubleday is one of our divisions. So if you're applying to this job, you should know what Knopf Doubleday is. I always tell people when you're applying, know what you're applying to. Now, with the job description, you have three parts. This is the first part, which is essentially what it is. What is Knopf? Like this tells you a little bit about Knopf. It tells you a little bit about what their ideal candidate is, what they're kind of looking for, some of the authors we will work with. So this is a good place for you to figure out, okay, these are the people that you work with. This is where I should be diving into researching about what Knopf is. Who are these authors if you don't know who they are? This is where you would do that. Okay. So this is all of that back information that you would use to like kind of supplement your interview, supplement your cover letters to add that additional research piece. Now, when you come to the middle of the job description, which is here, this is the role. The role is the second part. And that is essentially exactly what it's called, the role. People think sometimes I've had students, or even like just recent grads just think like, okay, this is where like I'll find my skills, but that's not true. These are the skills and the tasks that you would be working on when you are hired for the job. So when you come into the role, these are what you're expected to be doing. Okay. A lot of times this is where you can find keywords for jobs, for like your cover letter and things. Like if you and your resume, if you're adding in like special words for the jobs, this is where you would find it. If you want to speak as though you are doing the job, this is the language that you want to be using. So that's the middle section. This last part right here, all this other stuff is just like HR jargon. That's like telling you the salary, which is definitely important. And then, full-time employees, blah, 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 blah. HR stuff. This part here is the essentials, which is essentially the candidate, right? The essentials the essential skills that the candidate should have. Other companies call it like the ideal candidate has this, or like what you bring to the team. Like some people get real cute with it, but essentially it's the skills. This is the skills you need to be bringing into the company. So when you're thinking about how am I crafting my cover letter and my resume, this is where you want to look. Okay. With Penguin Random House specifically, I always tell people that the more, I mean, honestly, this isn't really specific to us, but the more senior you get in a job position, or the more like specific you get into a job, this like a job, like a type of job, that's when you kind of start to see like real like technical skills for that role. So for example, this is just an assistant position, right? But once you start going into like senior book production or like executive book production, or if you're thinking of like a specific type of job, IT, right? Like IT, design. I know there are many design students who are on the call right now. Design is another one. Those are like, there are some technical skills that will be involved that you need to have. Okay. Now, For this role, you really can see, I like this job and I picked this job for a reason. It really lines out the skills that are needed across publishing. Like so easy right at the top here, and I'll go through it in a second. Um, and also, I also want you to point to identify that these skills are not, they're not unique to publishing, but some of them, some of them might be. So like, for example, maybe Adobe Creative Suites, these specific Adobe programs, like in apps, those are specific for production. But when I'm thinking about your ability to manage multiple projects and schedule tasks effectively, attention to detail, ability to work and learn independently as well as a part of a team, capacity for anticipating problems and proposing solution, strong written and verbal communication skills, experience with Microsoft Office, right? That's not like publishing specific. And let me help you identify why. Ability to manage multiple projects. That is multitasking, time task management, and ability to prioritize. That's not publishing specific. Keen attention to detail, have strong attention to detail. Again, not publishing specific, but this is across industry. Ability to work and learn independently and as a part of a team. That is also, and are you able to manage your like self-manage and working with a team, collaborate, right? And the capacity for anticipating problems and proposing solutions, that's problem solving. Okay, again, not specific to publishing. And obviously written and verbal communication skills, that's right there, it's not specific. So that's how you read a job description. This is the area where you would be catering your cover letter and your resume to. Okay, if you have a resume, the skills section should have this right here. Like definitely for Penguin Random House, we use Microsoft Office Suite. And I always tell people to list out like Excel, Word, Outlook, because sometimes some hiring managers will use those as keywords. So I always tell people make sure you're identifying that. So that's essentially how to read the job description. Can everyone still see the presentation?
Yes, it's back to the orange slide now.
Awesome. So right. So the skills and the requirements are what you'll be needing to use to edit your resume, your cover letter. You want to cater your cover letter to those skills. And yeah, we can talk about that. What goes into a cover letter, right? The three areas you want to highlight is your relevant experience that is elaborating, not regurgitating what's on your resume. So don't repeat what's on your resume. A lot of students will do this. And I always say like career services give you the bones on how to build your cover letter, how to build your resume. But there's so many students that you can't expect them to be like, well, it's all about you. It's not all about you. They have a whole student body that they have to be supporting. So it's up to you to like take those bones and then take it on your own and think, how am I now making this uniquely mine? Okay. Now, so yes, don't repeat what's on your resume. A lot of students will put 4, 5, 6 times what college they go to and what their major is in various different locations on both the resume and the cover letter, and then use that for why they want to be applying to the job that they're applying to. I have a BA in psychology and I work in career services. Not like the math is just not mathing. It does not add up. Okay. I also was a teacher and I work in I work at a publishing house. It no. So my master's degree has nothing to do with what made me apply to this publishing house, right? So why am I applying to this job? That's really what you want to think about. The other piece too is identifying skills from the job description and then talking about how you've used those skills, adapted those skills, grown those skills, or built on those skills. You don't you don't have to do all four, and I don't think that your cover letter will have the space to do all four because you want it to be one page. Same thing with the resume. Um, you're not going to have the space to do all of those things, but I always tell people pick two significant jobs that you held in the past and use one paragraph to kind of dive into some of these areas, and then use another paragraph to dive into these areas again for that other job. This way, it kind of gives you a little bit of diversity in terms of like, I did this role and I also did this role, but I also was able to tackle these skills and do these things at two different positions. Okay. And then lastly is the interest in books. Like this one is more for publishing, but you can think of it as like for people who are not interested in publishing, you can think of it as like interest in the product or the mission, et cetera, things like that, or the goals of the company. I usually tie those last two together, number 2 and 3, thinking about how I can use my skills and then apply it to the role or the job or whatever mission that the company has. Like, what do I want to do with this job? Where do I want it to go? That's kind of what I usually do when I'm like writing my cover letter. So yeah, this is what I would say is what you want to highlight. And if you have questions, please feel free to jump in. The next slide, I'm going to talk about, you probably got a little preview. I'm going to talk about employee benefits working at Penguin Random House. And the reason why I'm interjecting that here is I like to talk to students about, when you apply for a job, you're not applying just for the job, how you working for this company, you working for this job, or you doing this role. You want to also think about how the company works for you. Like, is this company going to meet the needs that you also have? Like your future plans. It's not just plans that are happening after you graduate, it's plans you want to think about 5 years from now. 10 years from now, is this company going to support that? So this is where our benefits come from. So these are some of the benefits we have. I always say, if you want to know how if a company cares about their people, look at how much vacation time you get off. So we get 20 vacation days, for those 4 days, in addition to those 24 additional days for personal days, and then 10 additional sick days. Some companies will also be like, yeah, you got 20 days off. 10 of those days are vacation, 5 are sick, and maybe 1 or 2, or maybe like 3 are like personal. That's no, that's 20 days versus like what we have, which is 34. In addition to that, we also get company holidays off, like federal holidays off, and we have the entire Christmas break off. So that entire week that, college students get from, or even like high school, whatever, everyone gets that week between Christmas and New Year's, we get that week off. So not all companies do that. I know my partner's company definitely does it. The other piece too is the tuition reimbursement that we have. We have 2 programs that we offer. One is like reimbursement for programs related to your role. They'll give you a lump sum of money per calendar year to support that professional development. And then the other one is student loan assistance for 7.5 years, totaling $9,000. They give you $100 a month to put towards your student loan assistance. And then the one people really love is our 60% discount on our PRH books. We also have that as well as a 25% discount to out of print, which is also one of our companies that we own. We have a matching gift program, admissions to different New York City museums, and we also prioritize DEI work within this company. Having employee resource groups, but also continuing events around be like unbiased trainings, giving employers and our staff members all types of training around being more inclusive and like thinking about about like coaching your employees and supporting them. So there's a lot of DEI work that also has been continuing to go on in Penguin Random House, in addition to us taking on books that are reaching more diverse audiences as well. So yeah, that's kind of what we do here for Penguin Random House. But again, you want to make sure that you're looking at company benefits in addition to applying for that job. So this is the other big piece that I like to talk about with students is when you're interviewing. So you have your resume, you apply to the job, now you're at the interview stage, right? So when you're interviewing, you want to think of it as an effective storytelling. Preparation for an interview is always it's key. It's key. Ideal. You really want to make sure that you are prepping the best possible way. Okay. So I always recommend the STAR method of interviewing. And I add a little F in there, and I'll talk about that F in a second. So when you're prepping, this is also like I guess a candid thing that I do, little tip for all of you students who apply to jobs or like are interviewing at jobs that are more virtual. They can't see your screen. Right? So pull up a Word document. You can always minimize a Teams video or a Zoom video. It goes like this small on your screen. Have a Word document opened up with like your notes. Keep it fluid. You don't want to make it feel like you're reading off a note sheet, but keep it like something that's fluid. I always bucket out my STAR preparation, my STAR method of interviewing. I bucket out the preparation for that, and I'll talk about that right now. So the STAR method of interviewing, it is effective storytelling. That's all an interview is. You have to effectively tell a story about you, which can be very difficult. But if you prepare, I think it'll be okay. So, all jobs, like I said before, look for the same skills. Again, those skills are organization, time and task management, prioritizing deadlines, communication, independent problem solving, collaboration, project management. Those are all the basic skills that all everyone's looking for, right? Again, keep in mind the types of roles you're applying to. Um, for preparation, you want to organize. I usually organize by skill and have two examples for each, one positive example and one negative example. You want to make sure all of the examples you use are from different work sources and work experiences, like work, like roles that you've held. And you don't want to only use one experience. So I was telling Dana earlier, I'm currently interviewing a lot of candidates for the internship program that we have at Penguin Random House, and I don't know how many people will just pull from the same role. And I'm not that kind of person who's like, all right, this is like terrible. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not that kind of interviewer. That's not who I am. Especially because I know that I'm talking to students who are, this is like really their first go at these kinds of things. So I don't hold that against them. Um, but you want to make sure you're diversifying like the experiences you're pulling from. So if you have a few work experiences, use different projects and or tasks or experiences within there for your stories. So, an example, like I said, the skill communication, right? You want to have one positive experience that shows like like one positive thing from a job that you did that displays your skills in communication. And then one that you did that wasn't so good, that didn't go the best way that you wanted to, right? The way that you wanted to. And this is where that F that I mentioned comes in. F is for feedback. You want to think about when you have that negative situation, you want to think about how would you or how have you or what have you done to change that outcome, or what would you do to change it for next time, right? So you when you're talking to them, to the interviewer, you say, yeah, this happened and blah blah blah, it didn't really go, this didn't really work out for me. However, since then I've learned that after speaking with my manager, they gave me feedback in terms of identifying blah 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 blah. So I went on LinkedIn and did a little bit of research on a communication course in this specific area and how to negotiate or whatever. And then in my next job, I was able to like apply that and put myself in a situation where I was able to negotiate something and my results were this. That's kind of what you want to do, because then it's like, oh, you're able to take and apply feedback. Coachability is another skill that they look for. It's definitely, it's not necessarily like, I wouldn't put it on the same tier as the other skills, but it is definitely one that's like, oh, this person is someone who can be coached. You can collaborate. That's also another version of collaboration. How well do you take feedback? How you work with others? That's something you want to think about too. So that's what I say about each category. So I use the example of communication, but you also want to do the same thing again for organization, time and task management, prioritizing deadlines, also time and task management, independent problem solving, collaboration, and project management. And then the thing that I do too, I have all my notes now on my Word document that's next to my little interview box before like the interview, like in preparation. Remember, we're still in preparation stage. I have it. And then I use the power of Control F during the interview, right? Command F for people who have Macs, I would think is Command, and then Control F for people who have PCs. Search it. When you hear, you have to listen during the interview. What is this person asking me? And when you are able to put that together, it's something that has to happen really quickly. Okay. You don't want to like be there goggling in the world, like, what are they thinking? What are they asking me? No, you want to be like, oh, I got it. This is asking me a communication question. Then you say Control F on your computer, communication. Boom, there you got your notes right there. You can have it right there ready for you to speak it to the interviewer. Okay? That's just a little tip for you all that I've done before. And I recommend to people because when you interview virtually, it's there. They can't see what you're doing on your screen. Okay? The other thing, if you're interviewing in person, I would say make sure you have your notes organized. And I usually think that it kind of sticks with me when I feel more organized. It makes me more confident. It makes me feel like I know my abilities, I know my skills, and I have it in my head. I don't have to memorize it, but it's there. And I usually, in my preparation for each of these like stories that I'm telling about my skills, I'll bullet it out rather than write paragraphs. Like people tend to write like really long paragraphs about all the things in the story that happened. As a writer, I've like written a paragraph and then taken out the big pieces to help cut it down and also to make it feel more natural for myself too. So yeah, that's interviewing. That's my recommendations for interviewing. I hope that was helpful. Um, and then last thing that I like to talk about is networking and research. So backtracking from books, we'll talk about it for design students. I'll give you all a little bit of tips for books as well. You want to research the area that you're interested in when you're applying to companies. You want to make sure that you're researching what is this company about? What are they putting out? What's currently going on with them? Things like that. For Penguin Random House specifically, they value you knowing current market knowledge, and you should go in knowing a little bit about the business area that you're applying to. So for example, for Knopf Doubleday, that past role that we just looked at, if you that was a book production assistant role, you should know what book production is. You should know what Knopf is. Okay, so that's what I mean by you need to do a little research on your end to think what do you want to do, and if you don't know where you want to be, whether it's in publishing or anywhere, just do some research on the company itself and see like, is this where I want to be? They have like this thing that I'm interested in, or they do this thing that I'm interested in. Is this where I want to be? Let me research a little bit about them, research the roles that they have available, and then network with people. For Penguin Random House, read, right? Like this is a book publishing company. If you're not reading the books, how are you connecting to what is the company's making? How are you connecting to the product? I also think that at Penguin Random House, the employees here are really connected to the work that they do. They one of the things they love and value about people who apply is people who are enthusiastic and hungry and excited about making books. It feels obvious, but like it's so true to the product that people here are really dedicated to what they're putting out. And I think that's what the success of this company is, that you get people who are really passionate about what they're doing. So yeah, show that. Um, and using your reading to backtrack to make connections, right? So this is a tip for design students. If you're interested in publishing, inside all of our books, you can see who the designer is of the cover. So I always tell design students, go research who's that author, who's the designer. If you like their cover, the cover design that they did, go find them on LinkedIn. Try to make connections with them. I also say like do a little stalking, right? Like the design team, if you do research into what publishing is, you know who the designer is. They also have to work with with the editor. If you're interested in editorial, reach out to that designer and say, "Hey, I really love the work that you did. I'm really interested in editorial and thinking about how design like plays into the publishing space. You can add in something about that, and then say, "I really would be interested in connecting with the editor. Would you be able to make a connection?" It never hurts to ask. Okay. But yeah, that's a little tip for you. Do a little digging. I always say it's like when your best friend's boyfriend is like doing something on their phone and you got to do the detective work. Become a detective for your job. Okay. So make sure you're doing that as well. And then making connections is so ideal to the publishing industry. But now that competition is becoming so big when applying to jobs, I recommend doing it in every area. Always trying to network, make connections, show up and talk about yourself. That talking about yourself piece is really thinking about balancing the informational interviews that you ask for. So if you ask an employee for an informational interview, you want to balance it with questions for the person, but also talking about yourself, like integrating anecdotes about yourself. Like you don't want them to just spend the night, like, or spend the whole time talking about them. Like people will talk about themselves to the end of time. So you have to make sure you're integrating anecdotes about you, like thinking about how are you connecting? How are you connected, right? So when you're doing that little detective work, look into people's like personal pages. Like, what are they into? Like, do we have the same alma mater? Do they have like this pet that we both share? Or like, do they love this thing? Or do they love their work? Like, what pieces that have they put out? Do I love their work? These are things that I connected with from the things they've worked on. Did I do similar work? Like some design students, I always recommend to design book covers that are similar to the books that you enjoy, but also of the books that you enjoy from Penguin Random House. Redesign the cover and put your own spin on it and say, like, this is why. And that could be also a good way to connect with them too and to network as well. Um, but yeah, making sure to balance your networking, not just asking questions, but also integrating about you. Because a lot of times, if you don't know, if an employee doesn't know who you are, they can't really advocate for you because you have to think about what that means for that employee to put you forward as like, oh, this person is great. I met them this one time, know nothing about them, but they're great. Like that interaction was good. Like they're putting their that is them recommending someone for a job, and if that person doesn't meet the standards, then it's like, well, I'm not going to trust your recommendations now, right? So you have to think like, how am I showing myself as a good candidate, without making it feel like I'm selling myself. And I think integrating anecdotes like throughout, like a person talking, like bouncing off what they're responding to, that's a good way to do that, where you're not feeling like, oh, I got to sell myself. And speaking of connections, I'm your first. So you all, this is my email. If you all want to stay connected with me, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also email me if you want to follow up after this. I'm happy to do student one-on-ones. Right now, I'm not doing them until after Thanksgiving because I'm super booked for the internship interviews. But yeah, so that's when I'm going to be doing more student one-on-ones. But I'm always happy to help you, give you support. I edit people's resumes, cover letters, all the things. So yeah, that is it for me. Let me see if I can escape and stop sharing. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Aisha. That
yeah.
was so much amazing advice and so exciting to hear all about Penguin Random House. That list of benefits was really impressive. So I
Hmm.
appreciate you sharing that too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also just all your experience and just the candid notes that you had too on all of that advice. So
Yeah,
I'm
of
sure
course.
there are some questions that I'm going to pass it over to Amrique, but I just wanted to step in and say thank you for all of that
Yeah.
information. Thank you.
Hmm.
Thanks, Dana. Yes, and thank you so much, Aisha. This was great
Hmm.
information. And we do have a couple of questions from the chat. I have about 5 here that I was collecting throughout, if you
Hmm.
have some time to answer.
Yeah, yeah, go for it. Hmm.
So the first one was, what keywords does the system search for when you apply to help you get your resume added towards the top of the list
So it's
or not
saying
be rejected?
what keywords should they be adding in there?
Yeah.
So again, it all depends on the job you're applying to.
Hmm.
So you want to think about what the role is looking for, like what you would be doing. So for this production role, they have words like using data. So SAP databases, like that might be a good one that you want to have in there if you've used that. Ebook, if you like read ebooks or are interested in digital assets or have worked with digital assets, different things like that. Um, let's see, like they're talking about things like attending department meetings, sharing meeting notes. So like if you've done any kind of administrative work for like taking notes from a meeting or anything like that, like all of that's I would include in there. Yeah, it really
Yeah. It depends
keywords
on the
are
job application.
yeah, keywords are, they are like the worst. I honestly hate thinking about keywords because it's just like, oh my God, like what is it, what do you look for, like what is a
Right.
keyword,
What's the
like
perfect word? I'm trying to,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it really is just varies by whoever's the hiring manager for the role. It's just yeah, yes, Jessica, they are brutal.
True.
So I always never know what to tell people fully, but like that's kind of where you would find them, is like in the role where it tells you about the role.
Okay. Thank you. So the next question says, I work as a freelance writer. Do you have any advice for transitioning from contract jobs to a full-time position when applying for those type of
Yeah.
jobs?
If you're contracted and you're working with like our company or like other companies, like have them make connections for you as much as possible, network as much as possible. But it's the same thing. Have a strong cover letter. You just have to speak on like your skills because even contractors, you're still developing skills, you're practicing those things. So it's
Hmm.
honest, it's the same process. Just apply to the jobs and make sure you have a strong cover letter.
Perfect. The next question is, between a one-on-one interview and a panel interview, would there be any differences or anything extra to consider on top of the STAR method you were explaining earlier?
So between a one-on-one, so we don't do group interviews.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we don't. We also have there are assessments for entry level positions. Some of
Mhm.
the entry level positions like require you to take an assessment. And it's called like a blind assessment. I've had people like not sure what blind assessment meant. But it's just an assessment like for the job, just to see if you're able to do one piece or like something that they want you to do for that role. Usually that's kind of the ones I've seen is like blind assessments around Excel, like how well are you able to use Excel, and that's kind of what they're like, organizing information in Excel. That's one thing I've seen. I've also seen people ask you to do assessments for Penguin Random House, specifically writing readers reports. So if you
Mhm.
don't know what a readers report is, you should know, and you're applying to editorial positions, you should know what that is and know how to write one. But they're also testing like how well you can write too. But also your cover letter is a writing sample. So making sure that that
Yeah.
is flowing and that that's strong. And yeah, that's kind of, I guess that's what answers that question.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah.
So the next one, does Penguin Random House have tours in New York City?
Hmm. Yeah, we occasionally do. I just did one with St. John's University. Really, it would be the career services coordinating with me to see if I can go to New York to do it. I'm fully remote as an employee, and most of our staff is fully remote. But we do get some people coming in,
So it's
things
not a
like that.
one-off tour. It would have to be through the school,
Yeah.
like a group of people. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you could get a
So
one-off tour. You could if you had like a connection through a staff member. You could. I wouldn't say don't ask. You definitely can.
okay. All right. So there's a couple of more in the chat here. I'm going to
Yeah, yeah,
start working my way up. So someone
yeah.
says, has anyone ever done anything that made a really lasting impact on you during an interview, at a networking event, or in a cover letter? What did that person do, and why do you think it had such a significant impact on you?
Oh, I wish I had this question earlier. Um, Nothing's coming to mind at this hour,
Hmm.
6:36 p.m. After a day of interviewing. But I do think the last thing someone did was, I was at Emerson actually, and a girl, she was just talking about her interest in picture books and like children's books. But everyone I talked to who were like interested in the types of books, they're like, I love YA, I love YA. But she was the first one who said, yeah, I kind of like picture books more than YA. I don't really like that side of children's publishing. And it feels so like, oh, that's not really significant. But like, you don't get a lot of people who are interested in picture books and working with like baby books.
So,
So yeah, yeah, YA is young adult, sorry. Yes, so you don't really get that. So I was like, oh, and after like this is me come like Emerson was the second to last large career fair thing that I did in the last 2 weeks, but this is me coming off like doing, I want to say maybe 7 different college events and then going to this one. And she's the first one out of all of those events who said that. And I like remember her. I remember her
she
to
stood
this
out.
moment, everything she's wearing, everything. Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I know. You also know. I had students ask me this too from career fairs. Who do I know is dedicated? And I said, well, the people who follow up, the people who reach out are the ones who are dedicated to actually working here. And the people who are showing up and trying to make as much connections as possible, that's how you know. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. The next one is, what advice would you have for an aspiring writer getting their work into the hands of the people that make decisions?
So for aspiring writers, you definitely need to go through for Penguin Random House specifically, you have to use a agent because we only source from agents.
Okay.
Pretty much all of our imprints source from agents. I don't think I've spoken to an imprint yet that doesn't. Um, Sometimes they have like random calls, like call for like submissions, but they use an agent. They primarily use agents because they we get so many
That makes sense. Yeah.
submissions. Hmm.
Okay. What are your thoughts on how to best network for an informational interview?
Yeah, like I said, for design students and even anyone, like look at the books that you're putting out, see people who work on the imprints. On our LinkedIn page, you definitely can.
Hmm.
If there are specific imprints that you're interested in, you can always email me. I'll see if I can make connections for you. I've done it before, so don't feel like it's anything that's like a lift
Yeah.
on my end. I've definitely done it before. And yeah, that's definitely what I would say.
All right. Three more questions here, unless
Mhm.
more come in. So, do you ever recommend putting in your cover letter if you have had a lapse in employment?
Um, no, not really. I don't think so. Because you want to spend
Okay.
time in your cover letters sticking to your skills and what you do well. Not that having a lapse in employment isn't something like circumstance to circumstance. We're human at the end of the day. I would just have that conversation in the interview.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Someone asks, what's something, well, two-parter. Someone asks, are interviewee questions, thank you notes, etc., still appropriate to do after an interview? And what's something not to do when following up after an interview?
I think that my positive experiences, I mean, my negative experiences with like following up after interviews are when people are like aggressively following up and
Hmm.
then not just like not like following up just with you, but like with other people that are on your team or in the company. And then like in weird ways where like so I had someone who followed up with me like 6 times in email, kind of will message me like how you like text on a phone and not just
Hmm.
like send all your information in an email, one email. They'll be like, yeah, this is this one sentence. Send, I respond, they send back, like, oh, what about this? And that send,
No.
respond, and then again. And then they'll, if I don't respond, they hit me on LinkedIn. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second,
Give me a
what's
second.
going on?
Yes.
Like, I'm
Hmm.
coming. Give me a second. And then I've also had that same person like Teams message me, which is like super next level that I don't even know how they did that
So
because
too much outreach.
yeah, it's just too much. It's like, wait a second,
Hmm.
you also aren't supposed to be able to access my Teams like externally. So I was like, wait a second, something's going on. It's a conspiracy. So yeah, it was weird. That was just weird. But I think, it's fine. We
Okay.
are
Yeah.
also very unbiased. All of our recruiters are unbiased, so it's not gonna like make you better than someone else if you don't send one or you do. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. When making a reader's report sample, can you use or can the student use any book as an example?
If it's coming from a specific imprint, I unless they give it to you, then I would use the a book from their imprint. If not, they probably will actually give it to you. They won't even like they'll like give you the
Yep.
book. Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the realm of interviews, if we're waiting for a second interview, would waiting a couple of days or a week be a best way to follow up, or would it be better to wait until after the second interview? And
Yeah.
how long on average does it take to get a response from the application and also the first interview?
Yeah, so it all really depends on the recruiter, the hiring
Hmm.
manager, the role that you're applying to. For us specifically, for the internships, our window is a lot bigger. So we are looking at applications from the time we post the job until I want to say the beginning of December, we're looking at applicants. So it's a big window where we're just looking, interviewing, screening people, and just can like reaching out, etc. So we don't even our hiring managers don't even see who our applicants are until December. So they're not even going to
Gotcha.
see everyone until December because we're still reviewing everyone. And then they will reach out to have second round interviews in December. Um, Everyone has to have a second round interviews before offers are made. All offers should be made and should be done by the first week in January. That's the internship. It's a longer process because of holidays, etc. Um,
Mhm.
and also like that same thing can affect entry level positions as well. So that definitely is something I think about is like what's going on in the company. People don't really know all the time externally, so there are a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts. So if they want to hire quickly, they'll move quicker. If they're like we can like take our time and like really like scope out, dig for more people, et cetera, they'll extend it out. So it really depends. um when you're applying to entry-level positions, I always recommend applying 5 days after the job is posted. You want to apply as quickly as possible. The earlier, the better.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so within 5 days of that job posting for entry level, you can go ahead. For internships, not necessarily. Um, yes, and then once they have to sift through all of the applicants, which I know they usually do once the job posting comes down. So they do that, and then I think they'll reach out. They'll send you the assessments whenever it comes up, and yeah, I honestly that can
It
take.
just
It
varies.
just varies. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no like one time. But yes, so you have other. I can stay on a
Okay.
little
No,
bit
that
longer,
was
Dana. It's
okay.
totally okay. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, let's see here, because that was going to be the last question, but let's scroll up in the chat.
Hmm.
Do you get regular internship or volunteer opportunities in various fields, especially remote positions?
Yeah, all of our internships are fully remote. They're paid at $20 an hour. I
Hmm.
believe actually we have a fall spring session that's 2 semesters. So it's fall and spring. And you have to do both. And then our summer one is 1 semester, just for the summer. And they're all 10 weeks in 10-week intervals. So the fall spring one is 10 weeks in the fall, 10 weeks in the spring. Summer one is 10 weeks in the summer. Right now, I think we only have our legal internship posted, that's still open, and that will be coming down in January. But
Hmm.
and you have to be in law school for the legal internship, which I don't think applies to any of them. But yes, legal is there. But all of our other roles just closed last Friday, I believe. So yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And quick question. A student is currently editing and proofreading a newsletter for one of
Mhm.
our clubs and organizations here. So would that count as work experience?
Mhm. Yeah.
Or technically? Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
I've seen a lot of students like separate it by work experience and like like volunteer or other experience.
mhm,
If it felt like a work experience to you, it's a work experience. Like
I
you're
agree.
gaining skills. You are gaining skills. Did you gain skills from this? If your answer to that question is yes, combine it. You don't need to separate it.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And do you have any advice for aspiring freelance editors?
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know if we use freelance editors. We definitely use freelance copy editors, and proofreaders. So that way, that's through networking, a lot of networking and trying to make connections. And I honestly don't know how they find their freelancers. I know one of our teams, the Random House team, they have a mentorship program and they have a partnership with Emerson College, but I also got it extended to other colleges. But it's a small team of people who are doing it, but that's how they built out their freelance pool.
Mhm.
And that's for the production editorial team. Production editorial is the copywriting and proofreading teams. It's very different to editorial. Same thing with managing editorial, very different. So yeah, that's where we will do that. But networking is the best way to try to get into the freelance pool.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And this is a good question to wrap it up on. So someone says, could you give a brief summary of your experience obtaining a position at Penguin Random
Yeah.
House?
Yeah, so this job actually wasn't what I applied for. I actually didn't get the job I applied for. The person who got the job, she's actually on my team and she's 15 years older than me. So talking about a differing level of experience, she was born 15 years older than me.
Right.
So there's no way I could have had more experience than her. So I got this job. I interviewed really well for it. I had left teaching. So I started applying for jobs, didn't get the job at Penguin Random House the first time, but I was one of the final 2 candidates. Um, I ended up leaving New York, moved to Connecticut, had no job, just asked my son's daycare teacher, like, hey, do you know anyone who's hiring? She was amazing. Like I said, it does not hurt to ask. I just asked her, and she created a whole job for me. And I ended up
Networking.
managing HR at one of her daycares. So then after that, she knew I was looking for a job. She said I could do this while like part-time while I'm looking. And the head of the HR department at Penguin Random House, she ended up maybe 2 months later messaging me on LinkedIn. And she said, hey, this role is coming out. We think you'd be really good for it. What are you doing right now? And are you interested? And a week later, I interviewed and had the job. So yeah. Hmm.
Yes, check that out. And that's a testament
Hmm.
to say just because you don't get something the first time, making
Hmm.
those connections is crucial because different opportunities can come up later. So you didn't get the original
Exactly.
job, but you still
Hmm.
ended up working for Penguin
Exactly.
Random House. So
Yeah, and like
love
I
that.
think I said it a little bit in the presentation. Like I spoke about that other job, like I had it, like it was mine.
Hmm.
I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do XYZ. Like I want to take it to this level. I'm gonna meet with these people, blah, blah, blah. Like speak about the job like it's yours. Did it
Yes.
hurt a lot more when I didn't get the job? 100%, 100%. But I say this with like dating also. The worst they can say is no. Okay, so that's the
You
same
got to put
thing. The
yourself out
worst
there.
they can say, put yourself out there
Hmm.
and to speak with it, let the confidence come out. Because if you speak with it like it's yours, it helps you to feel more confident. And that's what helped me. And it also helped me to not feel like I was reading from a script when I was doing all my little, like,
True.
my
Yeah.
little command find things. um, so yeah, that really helped me to come across as like, I know what I'm saying. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you, Aisha. That was the
Yeah.
end of the questions. Dana, I'll pass it over to you to wrap things up.
Fabulous. That was some great questions, great
Mhm.
answers. Again, thank you, Amrique, for facilitating our student questions, and Aisha for again providing such valuable insight from your life and just
Mhm.
everything that our students can look forward to in their job search too. So,
Yeah, of course.
as far as tonight, I want to make sure we respect your time, but again, huge round of applause virtually or from behind the camera here for
Mhm.
your time and everything that you provided for us tonight. We
Yeah,
really appreciate you, and
of
everyone
course. I
have
hope it was
a great
helpful.
night.
Yeah, thanks
Absolutely.
everyone.
Yes.
Take
All
care.
right,
Night.
thanks all.
And feel free to connect with me. You have all my stuff. Take
Perfect.
care.
Yes.
Yes,
All right.
LinkedIn, email, we really
Mhm.
appreciate it.
All
So
right.
we appreciate your
Bye.
connection and have a great
Mhm.
night.
You too. Take care.